Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the Week 12 Monday Night Football Showdown slate on Draftkings. Going to cover this Monday night game between the Seahawks and the Eagles. Going to break down this Showdown slate like we always do. Start off at the top of the player pool, work our way down. I'll talk about all the playable options, all the guys that I am interested in for this Showdown slate, and then towards the end of the video, we'll take a look at roster construction, just kind of talk about how I'm looking to build out my lineups tonight, who I want to play at captain, whether I want to try and pay up at captain, whether I think there's some good mid-tier plays that are captain worthy, or if there's any cheap plays I like that I think I'll be playing captain. I will be sure to talk about that towards the end of the video when we look at roster construction. But before we do get started with the video, guys, as always, I'd appreciate it if you hit that like button down below. If you are new to the channel here, be sure to click the subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload, and you'll never miss out on any of my new videos. And if you do really enjoy my videos, and if they do help you out a lot and you want to get more content from me, you want to see more that I have to offer, you can check out my Patreon link down below in the description. I do provide a lot of extra content over on Patreon for those of you that are interested. You can check that out, see all that I do have to offer over there. The link is down below in the description. But let's go ahead and take a look at this Showdown slate. We will start off at the top of the player pool like we always do. Like most case, the quarterbacks, most expensive options this week, at least, Russell Wilson is our most expensive player overall. He's $12,600 in the flex, and if you want to play Russell Wilson at captain, he's going to cost you $18,900 in the captain spot. So Russell Wilson is clearly a top play on the Showdown slate, in my opinion. Not really going out on a limb there. He is definitely going to be a guy that we want to get into our lineups. I know he's had two pretty bad weeks the last 2 weeks against the Rams and against the Cardinals, but I'm not really taking that into account. Russ has been so good this year. He's been one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's been awesome for fantasy. He's incredibly efficient. We know that. This is a guy that can, complete 70, 75, 80% of his passes, can throw for 300 yards and multiple touchdowns pretty much any week. I'm not worried about this Eagles defense at all against an elite quarterback like Russell Wilson. The only downside is that Russ is very expensive, but I think it's likely that we do see Russ in the winning lineup. That's usually how I want to try and approach these Showdown slates. Do I think the guy's going to be in the winning lineup pretty much? And I think it's very likely we do see Russ in the winning lineup here. His floor is just so high. We know, even on bad games or bad weeks, Russ is still giving you 20, 22 DK points. Even if he has a bad game, he could still be in the winning lineup, still be a guy that you kind of have to have. Quarterbacks are always, you want to always try and get in quarterbacks. I say that on pretty much every video I make. Usually you'll see at least one of the two quarterbacks in the winning lineup. Rarely do you see no quarterbacks in the winning lineup on these Showdown slates. If I can only play one of the two quarterbacks, I do prefer to go to Russell Wilson. But we do need to talk about the Philly quarterback situation. So we got word throughout the middle part of this week that Jalen Hurts was taking reps with the first unit, and that he was getting, increased playing time pretty much, that they were going to be giving him increased playing time for this game. They haven't officially announced who's going to start, but from what I'm seeing, it's going to be a kind of like a Wentz will play maybe a series, maybe Hurts is going to play a series. We don't really know here. Right here, just in the DK blurb, it says that Wentz remains in line to start Monday's game against the Seahawks, but backup Jalen Hurts is expected to receive increased playing time at quarterback during the contest. And they said that, Hurts is actually going to play quarterback. They've done some things this year where Hurts will be on the field, but Carson Wentz will also be on the field. Hurts will take a direct snap, and, Wentz will be out lined up at receiver, kind of like Taysom Hill and Drew Brees do. Well, now they're saying that, Hurts is actually going to play drives and actually be the quarterback, where Wentz will be on the bench. But we don't have a confirmed, who's going to be the starter. We're going to see both guys, I think. I don't think Wentz has just been completely benched. I would be surprised if that's the case. I think we're going to see a little bit of both. So that makes it really tough for this Showdown slate. Do I want to pay $10,400 for Carson Wentz if I don't know he's going to be on the field all the time? I don't really want to pay that price for Wentz if he's going to be on the bench some drives. Jalen Hurts, I guess, is interesting because he's much cheaper. He's $7,200. Hopefully, we'll get some more word on this Monday. I'm sure we will. I'm sure during the afternoon, probably maybe a couple hours before kickoff, we might get more clarity on the quarterback situation here. Hurts is obviously going to play way more this week. He's going to get snaps at QB. He's going to play some quarterback. it's just kind of a wait and see for me. Right now, I don't plan on really going to either guy if they're going to be splitting like drives. If we're going to see, Wentz play a drive, Hurts play a drive, like it's tough to pay for these two guys when they're going to be like splitting, pretty much the playing time. But if we get confirmed like Hurts is starting, Wentz is not going to play, or Wentz is going to be the backup, then yeah, I would have much more interest in Hurts. But for right now, I think Russell Wilson's the quarterback I want to get in on this showdown slate. We'll have to wait and see what happens with the quarterback situation with Philly, whether Hurts is going to be the confirmed starter and Wentz is going to be his backup, or Wentz is going to start but Hurts is going to play as well. Like, it's just really tough to gauge. So for that reason, if I can only play one quarterback, which I usually want to try and do, Russell Wilson, definitely going to be my guy here. Even though he's really expensive, I'm going to want to try and find a way to get him in. But then you got like the expensive receivers, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. Both are obviously really, really good plays. Both have been somewhat inconsistent this year. We've seen games, both DK and Metcalf, or both DK and Lockett do have pretty low floors. These guys are still elite receivers, but we've seen both DK and Lockett can put up floor games, can go for 5, 6, 7 fantasy points. Against the Rams, DK only had 2 catches for 28 yards on 4 targets. He had a 4-point game against Arizona. He still has somewhat of a low floor. Tyler Lockett's kind of the same as well. He's had some, games under double-digit fantasy points this year against Buffalo, against San Fran, against Minnesota, Miami. I would say that Lockett's floor is probably lower than DK's. Both guys have pretty high ceilings. Both guys, I think, most weeks are going to get, probably 6 to 8 targets. Maybe you'll see a little bit more for DK some weeks. Maybe you'll see a little bit more for Lockett. I've said this all year. It's really tough to predict which one of Lockett or Metcalf's going to go off on a given week. Given the pricing on this showdown slate, I think I would rather play Lockett because he's almost $2,000 cheaper. You do get a lot of savings dropping down from DK to Lockett. I think both guys do project pretty similarly. If not, maybe Lockett even projects a little bit better. I don't really know like who's going to see cornerback-wise. Like maybe Darius Slay will shadow Metcalf, but at this point, like who really cares? DK Metcalf is matchup-proof in my opinion. He's one of the most unguardable receivers in the league, just so quick, so explosive. Really just tough to guard one-on-one. I don't get too worried about who's lined up across for him. So just given the pricing, I think I would rather play Lockett. Both Seattle receivers, though, are definitely in play. Both are really strong plays. But if I can only choose one, I think I'd rather take the savings, play Lockett for almost $2,000 less, and then kind of spend that money elsewhere. But then we got the running backs. We got Miles Sanders and Chris Carson. Chris Carson finally returning after it seems like he's been out for like 5 or 6 weeks. I mean, it's been a while since Chris Carson has played. He was out pretty much since week 7 against Arizona. But he's making his return. We do have Miles Sanders priced, though, a little bit above him at $9,200. I do like Miles Sanders here quite a bit. We know he's pretty much a workhorse back at this point. Like, he's not getting the massive usage that I thought he was going to get. Like, I thought Sanders was going to be a guy that was getting like 18, 20 carries, 6, 8 targets. Like, he was going to be like a 20, 25 touch guy pretty much on a weekly basis. That really hasn't been the case this year. Some of that's kind of been due to game script, though. Like, I mean, the Eagles' offense just the last few weeks has been incredibly inefficient. They've just been really, really bad. They haven't been able to put up points. They've just really struggled overall, and I think that's kind of one of the reasons you've seen Sanders have such bad games recently. This is still a guy, though, that's going to get probably 18 to 20 touches most week. I like the matchup against Seattle. I know Seattle's been really, really bad against the pass this year. They really struggled to stop, QBs and wide receivers, but still, I don't see them really stopping Miles Sanders. We know the volume is going to be there. He gets work in the passing game. Between him and Chris Carson, I think I do prefer Miles Sanders. Chris Carson, I expect to be full go. Like, I don't see them limiting him. He's not a guy that, wants to be limited. Like, Chris Carson, this is definitely one of those guys that wants to, get his full workload. But I just feel a little bit better about Miles Sanders. Feel a little bit better about his pass game usage. I know Carson has been involved a lot in the passing game this year, but I still think Sanders is the guy that I prefer just between the two running backs. I think both are in play, but if I can only choose one, I do prefer to go to Miles Sanders over Chris Carson, just between those two guys. Carlos Hyde, $7K. I won't be going there. I just think he's overpriced now that he's going to be going back to his backup role. Like, I don't want to play a backup running back at $7K, so Carlos Hyde going to be a fade for me. Travis Fulgham, I do have a good amount of interest in. Really good matchup here against the Seattle secondary. Seattle, they've just been terrible at stopping quarterbacks and receivers this year. I said it earlier. Pretty sure they've allowed the most fantasy points to both QBs and wide receivers so far this season. If it's not them, then it's like the Falcons. I think one of those two teams. I'm pretty sure it's Seattle that's allowed the most fantasy points to QBs and wide receivers. They've just been brutal, stopping the passing attack. Haven't been able to slow anyone down on the defensive end. Fulgham's been bad recently, but the volume has still been there. Like he's gotten 12 targets over his last 2 games. I know they've been really inefficient targets. He only has 2 catches over 12 targets, but the volume is still there. He's still pretty much been an every down wide receiver. I know with Goddard back and with Jalen Reagor back, like that's going to cut into Fulgham's volume a little bit. Like I don't think he's going to be a guy that sees double-digit targets every week like he was seeing, weeks 5 through 7 whenever Reagor and Goddard were both out. But still, he's an every down wide receiver. He's only 6,800. It's a really good matchup. I do like Travis Fulgham quite a bit. I think he's one of my favorite Philly pass catchers to go to. I think he's just underpriced. I think the volume is going to be there. It's a really good matchup. And maybe because he's had 2 bad games the last 2 weeks that people will shy away from him. But I still do like Travis Fulgham a lot. I think at his price point, he is definitely captain worthy. He has upside to be like in the winning lineup at captain. Can go for 100 yards and a touchdown. He's done it before this year. I'm pretty sure he has a game with 100 yards and a touchdown. Yeah, week 5 against Pitt. Like, he's got upside. It's a good matchup. I do like Travis Fulgham. Dallas Goedert, I have interest in as well. Between him and Fulgham, I think I do prefer to go to Fulgham. But Dallas Goedert finally, got back into the swing of things last week against Cleveland. Finally had a good game. 5 catches, 77 yards and a touchdown on 6 targets. With Zach Ertz still out, Zach Ertz not expected to play this week. I mean, Goddard's going to be pretty much an every down tight end. He's going to get the volume. It's a good matchup as well. I do like Goddard here. I just feel a little bit better about Fulgham. I think Fulgham's volume is a little bit higher. I think it's more safer. I think Fulgham has a little bit more upside as well. Like if there's a guy that can go for 100 yards and a touchdown, I think it's more likely to be Fulgham than Goddard. But Goddard's still in play for sure at 6,400. If you want to go to him, I do not mind him at all. I really like all these Philly pass catchers. Like they all feel a little bit too cheap. Fulgham's only 6,800. Goddard's 6,400. Jalen Reagor is only 5,800. I do like Reagor quite a bit as well. He's also seen pretty consistent volume the last few weeks. 18 targets over their last 3 games. He's been a little bit more efficient than Fulgham has in terms of his, catching his balls, I guess you should say, but really hasn't been able to find the end zone. Just 1 touchdown this season, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 1 touchdown through 5 games. But this is still an explosive receiver. Does have a lot of speed. Was really good in college at TCU. We haven't really seen a big Jalen Reagor game yet, but if there was ever a spot for him to put up a big game, it would be against this really bad Seattle secondary. I do like Jalen Reagor as well. Ranking the Philly pass catchers between Fulgham, Reagor, and Goddard, I think when you factor in price, I would probably go Fulgham number 1, Reagor number 2, Goddard number 3. But all 3 guys will definitely be in my player pool. I will for sure have exposure to all 3. It's just, if you're only playing one lineup, you're probably not playing all 3 of those guys. So that's just how I would rank them. If I was only playing one lineup, Fulgham would probably be my favorite to go to. But obviously, if you want to play both, like Reagor and Fulgham, I wouldn't mind that at all, especially if you're playing, Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts in that lineup. Greg Ward, though, probably going to be a guy I'm underweight on, don't really get much exposure to. I just think he's so closely priced to Reagor, to Goddard, to Fulgham that I would just rather play those guys. Ward's been seeing solid volume as well, but I just don't think he has the upside that those other Philly receivers do. I just don't think he's going to lead this team in targets. It's most likely going to be either Fulgham or probably Goddard, maybe Reagor. So I prefer all those guys over Greg Ward. If Greg Ward is cheaper, if he was like 3,500, 3,800, I'd probably have more interest in him. But at 5,200, there's other guys that I would rather get to. David Moore at 4,600. This is one injury we're going to have to watch. I think he's really like the only questionable guy heading into this game. I don't think there's really anyone else that we need to keep an eye on besides David Moore. And also we'll obviously have to keep an eye on, if the Eagles announce who their starting quarterback's going to be. But Moore is questionable. We'll need to keep an eye on this. He was limited in Friday's practice. If he plays, don't really have much interest in him at 4,600. Just kind of another situation where I wish he was a little bit cheaper. If he was like $3K maybe, then I would go there. But we know David Moore is not going to get much volume in this offense. When Russell Wilson drops back to throw, he's looking to Tyler Lockett. He's looking to DK Metcalf. It's really hard for David Moore to put up, somewhat of a ceiling game. He's very touchdown dependent. Like if he doesn't score a touchdown, he's probably getting you less than double-digit fantasy points. Like the weeks where he has double-digit points, I'm pretty sure he scored a touchdown. Yeah. Like he scored a touchdown all those games with double digits, so he's touchdown dependent. 4,600. I think if I can find salary, I would rather get up to those Philly pass catchers that we talked about. If David Moore is out, though, that would open up Freddie Swain as a really cheap option. He's also questionable, but I believe he's expected to play here. They've already said, reading the blurb right here, that Pete Carroll said Saturday that Swain will be ready for Monday's game, but he sounded far less optimistic about David Moore. So maybe David Moore misses this game and we get Freddie Swain as the number 3 receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. Freddie Swain, not going to get much volume either, but he's only $200. Like, it's going to be hard for him to kill your lineup at $200, even if he only scores like 4 or 5 points. Like, if he does pretty much play David Moore's role, if Moore winds up out, I mean, Freddie Swain might get, 5-6 targets. $200, I mean, really, you can't ask for more than that at that price point. I will definitely be keeping an eye on the status of David Moore. If he plays, I don't really have much interest in him, but if he's out and Freddie Swain is able to play, which it looks like he's going to, then at $200, he does become a very viable, cheap, like, punt play that can get you, 6-8 points and potentially make the winning lineup. We've seen, these minimum salary guys, if they score like 6 to 8 points, they can sometimes make it into the winning lineup. So I do like Swain if Moore winds up out. The kickers, I say this pretty much every video. I'm always fine playing one of the kickers, one of the 2 kickers. On this slate, I think there's not much great punt value besides Swain. So if Moore plays and we don't get Swain as a punt value play, then yeah, I could see going to one of the 2 kickers. Probably wouldn't play both, though. Rarely do you see both kickers in the winning lineup. The defenses, probably going to be a fade for me. I don't really like the defenses here. I just don't see the upside. If you want to go there, sure, you can go ahead, but I rarely play the defenses on these showdown slates. Like, rarely do we see the defenses in the winning lineup unless they get, like a fluky pick 6 or scoop and score, which is just so hard to predict. So for that reason, probably be off the defenses. Will Dissly, really not getting the volume, even with Greg Olsen out and done for the year. Like, Dissly just, 1 target last week, 2 targets the week before that. He's really hard to trust at this point. I just can't go there at $3,600. He's just a little bit too expensive for me. I don't really see the upside at his price. Jacob Hollister, he saw a few more targets than Dissly did last week, but, do I want to go to Hollister? I guess if I had to play one of the Seattle tight ends, if I was going to take a shot on one of them, it would probably be Hollister just because he's cheaper. Both guys are going to play some. Both guys are going to be out there running routes, but just the upside's not really there. They're touchdown dependent for sure. They're just not going to get the volume in this offense. We saw whenever Greg Olsen was healthy, like, he wasn't getting much volume either. 2 targets, 4, 3, 4, like, just not a guy that's going to, see a ton of volume in this Seattle offense. So yeah, I'm probably going to be off the Seattle tight ends, even though Greg Olsen's out. I guess if you force me to play one, I'd rather play Hollister just because he's the cheapest, but probably won't be on either one. Richard Rodgers, another guy that's just like, you need a touchdown from him. If he doesn't score a touchdown, he's probably not going to be in the winning lineup. But, we saw him score a touchdown last week. He had I'm pretty sure it was a 29-yard touchdown if I'm not mistaken. He only had 2 catches last week, and one of them was a touchdown. Kind of a bit of a, fluky performance. But with Zach Ertz still out, they are running Richard Rodgers some. Like, even with Dallas Goedert healthy, like, Richard Rodgers is still playing. He's still out there running routes. I guess at $1,800, he's another guy that's viable. But again, like, I don't feel too confident in really anyone under $4K. Like, once you get past the kickers, like, there's really not a ton of value plays that I'm in love with down here besides Freddie Swain if David Moore winds up out. So yeah, I think we really covered like all the punt value plays. Let's go ahead and talk about roster construction just real quick before we do end the video. So I said it earlier, I want to try and play one of the 2 quarterbacks usually always, and I think on this slate, if I can only play one of the 2, it's going to be Russell Wilson for me. I think it is very likely that we do see Russell Wilson in the winning lineup. Even if he has somewhat of a floor game and only puts up 20, 22 points, like, there's a chance that Russell Wilson is still in the winning lineup. I don't know if I want to play him at captain because rarely do I play quarterbacks at captain. I think Russell Wilson is definitely an exception because he just has so much upside. But we talked about some of these like mid-tier receivers that give us upside. These are probably the guys I want to go to at captain. Tyler Lockett. If you want to play one of the running backs at captain, I wouldn't mind that either. But like Lockett, especially Travis Fulgham, I really like at his price. Rager, I think, makes sense as a captain play. These are the guys I like most. I think overall, Fulgham's probably my favorite at $10,200. So let's make a team with Fulgham at captain. Normally, I would like to pair the quarterback with their receiver, but because there's so much uncertainty right now with who's going to be like the starter, who's going to see the most reps, like we could see a scenario where maybe Jalen Hurts has 150 yards and a passing touchdown and Carson Wentz has 100 yards and a touchdown. Like, I could see a scenario where both guys maybe put up like 10 points. I could see a scenario where maybe Hurts comes out and just plays really well, and then we just see Hurts play the rest of the game. it's just so hard to predict what's going to happen with this Philly offense. Like I said earlier, this is kind of a wait and see. I'm hoping we'll get some clarity on who's going to be the starter, who's going to play more between Wentz and Hurts. If you force me to play one right now, it would be Hurts just because he's the cheaper, and because we did get reports that he was taking reps with the first team, which makes me assume, that he's going to be the starter. But we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, normally I would want to play my quarterback with my receiver, but I don't think we have to right now. So let's plug in Russell Wilson. Told you I wanted to get at least one of the two quarterbacks, and Russell Wilson, obviously a guy we want to try and get in most likely. But then looking for other ways to go, once we plug in Fulgham at captain with Russell Wilson, that leaves us only 6,800. We're going to need to find some value. We talked about guys like Jalen Reagor, Dallas Goedert for cheap. You could play one of the two kickers. We could plug in Freddie Swaim, assuming that David Moore winds up out. I don't think we're going to do that now because we don't really know the status of Moore. I don't really like plugging in guys into the build if they're kind of injury dependent. So for that reason, we'll just kind of wait there. Let's maybe plug in Jalen Reagor as sort of a cheaper option for 5,800. That gets us back up to 7,133. I think I want to try and get in one of these Seattle receivers, whether it's Lockett or Metcalf. And we talked about it earlier. Between the two, I just think I prefer Lockett given the savings, given the near $2,000 in savings. So let's plug Lockett into our build. And that leaves us 5,900 remaining per player for our last two spots. I guess if we wanted to, we could plug in Jalen Hurts into this build. We already have two Philly pass catchers, so we probably want to get one of the quarterbacks in. And it looks like Hurts is going to play more than Wentz. We don't really know, though. There could be a timeshare there. There could be a split. I guess, if you're going to force me to play one, it's going to be Hurts. And because, like I said, we have two Philly pass catchers, and we're assuming those guys do well, that probably means one of the two quarterbacks is doing well. One of the two quarterbacks is getting them the ball. We don't really know right now if that's going to be Wentz or Hurts, but let's plug in Hurts at 7,200. That leaves us 4,600 left for our last spot. So, we could play David Moore there, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but, I guess you could go with David Moore into that last spot, or you could play one of the two kickers. I don't know if there's anywhere we could really downgrade. If we downgraded from Reagor to, like, Greg Ward, which I'm not the biggest fan of, that doesn't really make a difference. So, I guess that's what you could do. You could play Reagor there, and then you'd have enough to play David Moore, who's not the worst play. I just don't know really what his upside is. You're going to need him to score a touchdown, which, obviously makes it risky, but he could still outscore the kickers. Like, if David Moore gets 9 points, that could be good enough, especially if the kickers don't really, get more than double digits. So that's a build that I do like quite a bit. I think that gives you some upside. You got potentially both starting quarterbacks in there. We'll have to see who starts for Philly, but you got Hurts and Russell Wilson. You got Russell Wilson with Lockett, then you got Fulgham and Reagor, and then you got David Moore. You got a 3-3 build, equal exposure to both sides, which is something I do like to try and do. I think this is going to be a game where we probably see it like a 3-3 be the winning lineup. I don't think we're going to see like an onslaught or anything, especially with how cheap some of these Philly guys are. I think we're going to see one of like Reagor, Fulgham, probably Sanders, like one if not two of those guys are going to be in the winning lineup if I had to guess. Fulgham, though, we talked about him earlier. I think he's my favorite guy here. But yeah, like if I'm just playing one lineup, I think Fulgham's probably my favorite captain overall. If I'm paying up at captain, obviously you could go to Russell Wilson, but I think probably Tyler Lockett's my favorite captain to pair with Russell Wilson. Like if we build out a Tyler Lockett lineup at captain, pair him with Russell Wilson, that leaves us 5,750 remaining per player. We can maybe do something similar to what we had. Go with Fulgham, maybe go with Jalen Hurts as well. That leaves us 4,500. I guess we could plug in one of the two kickers. Maybe. Now, we wouldn't have enough for one of the two kickers if we wanted to play like Greg Ward. But if we played maybe Reagor, that'd leave us, I guess, enough for like Richard Rodgers or Hollister if you want to take a shot on one of those two guys. I'm not too confident in them, but it does fit the build. But yeah, if we played one of the kickers, that'd leave us enough to play David Moore again. Whether you want to go with Elliott or Myers at the kicker spot. It's pretty much the same build as the last one, except really the only difference is we have, instead of, let's see if I can spot the difference. I think instead of Reagor and a kicker, or the last build we had Reagor, this build we got a kicker. So you just kind of like a 2v2 swap, depending the difference there. But yeah, guys, I think we kind of covered roster construction. I think we broke everything down for this Showdown slate. Talked about, kind of how I'm looking to build up my lineups. Really the only injuries we need to watch heading into Monday night. Need to keep an eye on the status of David Moore. If he plays, I think he's a fine option. Not my favorite guy to go to, but if he fits your build, you can plug him in. But if David Moore does wind up out and Freddie Swaim plays, he's only $200. he would step into that number 3 receiver role. He would definitely become a viable punt option that I would have a lot of interest in at only $200. And then we obviously need to keep an eye on the status of the Philly starter quarterbacks. Like, is Carson Wentz going to start? Is Jalen Hurts going to start? Is Jalen Hurts going to, back up Carson Wentz? Is Carson Wentz going to be an every down player, which doesn't seem like it's going to be the case? I think we're going to see Jalen Wentz play some drives. I think we're going to see Carson Wentz play some drives. It might be literally like Wentz plays a drive, comes off the field, and the next drive Hurts plays, and then they just keep rotating the whole game. Like, I could see a scenario where they do that. I could see a scenario where they kind of ride the hot hand. Like, if Wentz comes out and struggles and Hurts is playing well, like, maybe they just play Hurts the rest of the game. Like, we just don't really know. Hopefully we get some clarity on that sometime Monday, maybe in the afternoon or a couple hours before kickoff. So be on the lookout for that on Twitter or wherever you get your news. Keep an eye on the status of David Moore, because that actually is pretty important for this Showdown slate. But other than that, guys, I think we covered everything. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Wish you the best of luck on the Showdown slate. I hope you do win some money. If you did enjoy this video, hit the like button down below. Hit the subscribe button as well. Be sure to click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. You'll never miss out on any of my new videos. And if you do really enjoy my videos, and if they do help you out a lot and you want to get more content from me, you can check out all that I do have to offer over on Patreon. You can get access to my updated core plays. I post core plays for all the Showdown slates and the main slates, or at least the Monday and Thursday night Showdown slates. I do post articles and core plays for the main slate as well. NBA starts up in a couple of weeks. I will have daily content over on Patreon, core plays over there for NBA. I'll have my articles that I'll post Monday through Friday over on Patreon for NBA. So a lot of content going up over there. Be sure to check it out. Link down below in the description if that does interest you. But best of luck on the Showdown slate, guys. Hope you win some money. I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.